Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom. We are in the Superhero Battle Room today with Arlen Denny. He is a man that served his country and continues to serve his country through Connection. Now, here's a little cool thing we're going to go over and do. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're watching it live, I want you to put in the comments as you're listening to him before he announces his branch, what branch of service he is. I'm not going to ask him, but see if you can figure it out as he goes over and reveals it. So we're going to bring him to the stage, and he's going to talk about his transformation story. Arlen, do I have you?
You do.
All right. So let's get this party started. What inspired you to join the military either very moons ago or just a few minutes ago? So you can tell us on how long it's been.
Yeah. Daniel, it's been 33 years plus that I was in the military. I'm still currently serving as a contractor, but I initially joined because I knew I was going to be the first in my family to go to college. And so I wanted the education assistance program that they had. Plus, I liked the opportunity to travel the world. So I thought if I could get the combination there and do it 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year, I'd join the Guard. And then as things would have it, I just continued to progress. Had a couple folks say, hey, if you're going to be in for 20, you should do it as a commissioned officer. So I converted. After 6 years of enlisted service, I got commissioned. And then later on, I ended up having the opportunity to use my skills and my training full time. And I ended up doing 15 years of active duty post 9/11 because the skill sets I had acquired is what they needed at the time. And I always call myself the accidental careerist because I had no clue how long I would actually be serving. But the programs that I studied and the assignments that I got just continued to draw me in and fulfilled me with the service that I was able to do to our country and to our fellow men.
You have a unique background in that particular regard because there's nothing that's quote unquote drawn me from the assignments at all. And that it's usually the people have drawn me or the paycheck has drawn me. The education was only the first couple of years for me. So 33 years into service. So that is a long, long time. So awesome on that. And congratulations on getting to retirement plus. So hopefully you are going over being blessed. But when that did happen, because everybody does retire, doesn't matter. I think the longest one was General Myers in the Air Force, 40 years in a day. I remember watching it on CNN. When did you actually leave? And we already know how long you were in, but tell us about that leaving process. Like what year and what that was like.
Sure. So that would have been May of 2016. And the way the laws had been changed, that the active duty was using the Guard and Reserve folks like they were active duty, Congress passed the National Defense Authorization Act of 2010, and they said retro to 2008, you can start getting credit to reduce your retirement age from 60 all the way down to 50. And so I just started watching the clock. I happened to volunteer for an assignment in Germany, which I thoroughly loved. Called the wife and kids. I said, hey, I've only got 90 days left, but come on over and maybe you can, if we get extended, we'll stay. If not, you'll have 90 days in Germany and then we'll go home together. I was extended for 2 more years, total 2. And as I was watching the clock, I realized I'd crossed that threshold that if I quit today, I could actually start getting a pension check, the gray area reservist, they call us. So you wouldn't get your TRICARE for life until you turn 60, but they would pay you your pension based on your rank and your points and your rank points and a year's time in service. So I realized, hey, might as well capitalize on that. So May of 16, I actually looked 2 days short of 33 years to the day. And then I jumped out. That was it.
Wow. That's really cool. I mean, I'm at the point right now, I'm at 24 years. I did 12 years active and I done 12 years reserve. And I got this nasty term called an art. I know the government doesn't like I say about this, but
Yeah.
it's the GS employee and the reservist, and they marry together, and it's the worst marriage in heaven. I still go over and obey the command of all my officers and whatnot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that program is not nice. So for
Yeah.
me, if I get med boarded, I might get a similar type retirement. But if I just have normal retiring, I'm like, I got to tick down until about 60. So I'm like,
Yeah.
18 years to go. So that is amazing that you're able to just basically leave and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Daniel, you'll appreciate this too. I put in for several of those art or active guard and reserve positions, and I should have been the shoe in because I was running the office, I was running the job, and they picked people from outside the unit that had no experience, and some of these political decisions or nepotisms or whatever you want to call it, when those happened to me and then kept happening to me, my wife says, "What are you doing wrong at work?" And I said, "I don't know. I thought everybody liked me." But, in the good Lord's experience, he knew that if I took any of those AGR positions, I wouldn't have gotten the early retirement and stuff because I didn't really know all the rules. You just kind of play by what you know at the time. And a lot of times it's peer to peer telling you what the rules really are, but they're not always correct. But I was that guy that was reading the books and figuring out what was what. And I started saying to my unit, "You can't take me off of orders. You take me off of orders for one day, I lose 90 days of credit." I said, I can accomplish anything you want while I'm on active duty.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
And I agree with that. I mean, that makes total sense because now the AGRs across, I mean, the AGRs and arts across all branches now have to wear the uniform. We lost that battle in 2018. Dover Air Force Base was the last place, and now you can't tell the difference, but you can feel the difference if you are an AGR or an art. An art literally goes over and is supposed to follow civilian rules, but we still follow the military stuff. We still wear the rank. I always make the joke, like when someone's like, "How you doing, Sergeant Faust?" I'm like, "It's Mister. It's Wednesday," but we don't get to rip off the badge and put Mister on there or Mrs. or just call me Danny. Just put Danny right there. But so it's very interesting. So I'm glad that you were able to go over and do that because that is a huge, huge blessing. So 2016, a lot of things went over and changed, like from 80s, 90s, 2000s to 2016. How was that transition? I know for me, it was a mixed bag. What about for yourself?
Yeah, same. While I was in Germany, I was looking for the next opportunity. I had left a dental implant sales job, outside sales position. I loved being on the road. I loved doing the service to the doctors, and I wanted to do something similar. I called up a friend who was in medical devices, and he said, "Hey, I've got a kind of a little starter program for you that I might be able to start for you." And so I was all excited thinking that I was going to maybe use that as a stepping stone. But after 6 months, nobody wanted the products. Most of the doctors had been bought by larger groups and associations. They had no motivation to use this product for the moneymaker that it could be. And so at the end of 6 months, it was like, okay, now what? And to top it all off, I found out just about 3 days prior to the end of the 6 months of insurance that you get when you transition out and off of active duty orders, I found out I had kidney cancer. And I was, applying with the VA and everything else. And I just said, well, sure, let's, go through this health situation and then see how things develop after that.
Wow. That's like huge. I had a kidney stone before, but can you tell our audience what the difference between a kidney stone and kidney cancer is?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. One night I went to bed. I could not sleep, just started tossing and turning. I had no other symptoms, but when 2 o'clock in the morning, I said to the missus, "I've got to go to the ER. I just can't get this stabbing pain out of my abdomen." And I think, Daniel, that was just the good Lord is saying, "Hey, you need to go take, I want medical pictures of what's going on." And the ER said, "Your pain in your abdomen is not related to your kidney cancer, but we can probably treat that with antibiotics, but that bump on your kidney's got to go." And I was processing through with the VA and, just figuring out what we were going to do next. I gave them that diagnosis, and then they were able to send me over to the Huntsman Cancer Institute right here in Utah. And they took super good care of me. I don't know why the VA gets some bad raps. I know everything's local, but yeah, my guys lead turn everything that I did for that healthcare, and had the surgery in January 2017. And then after that, it was like, oh, okay, maybe clean bill of health for a bit. Let's monitor and wait and see what happens. But, nothing's preventing me from looking for other work. And so I had some specialty military skills and decided to contract and put in for some things. And been really contracting ever since April of 2017.
Yeah, that's good to hear. You don't hear too many people go over and say good on the VA. I personally think the VA has been exceedingly well for me. But the thing is, I think a lot of veterans need to understand you, just like if you work as an ART or an AGR or active duty and whatnot, it's the people you connect with and the information you know. Like, for example, currently I have to go look in the regs because I have back injuries and I used to get medical massage, chiropractic, and I used to get acupuncture. Now there is some or in there, but I'm like, you're going to have to show me there's an or. Is it the doctor going over and feeling that way? Or is it actually an or in the 38 CFR? Right. So, and now with the 2024, a lot of the physical stuff is getting diminished, and now they're focusing on mental health stuff. It's not saying like, hey, get more mental health disorders to keep your VA up and rolling, but just so you understand that if this doesn't link to this, your VA claim is now going to be different because they're cutting out $250 billion. So it's a budget issue too. So you have to think about it that way. And it's a legacy fight that we have to continue to do.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the Guard and Reserve guys, VA isn't even in their acronym lists, until way later in your career. And I only really thought about it or heard about it because I was on active duty for so long. People would normally flow through their TAP programs and, basically see the VA before you even get out to see if there's some kind of disabilities that you're entitled to or whatever else. I hadn't even thought about that until I started following my active duty counterparts and saw them doing the same thing. And I just jumped in line. But I really think the Guard and Reserve guys need to know that program is for them as well, and that they need to know about it almost from day one as a military member.
Yeah. And one of the other things too is that you can be in the Guard and Reserve and still receive VA at the same time. That's a whole separate episode that I can go into from my personal experience, but you can go over and receive both. You just have to know how to go work the system. It's going to be one of those things you can receive either benefits and waive the drill, keep the drill and waive the benefits, or you do a synergistic of both. I do the synergistic of both. They come to me usually in April and they say, hey, you owe a debt by July. And I decide either to pay it or to stretch it out or do whatever. But it's been a blessing to me for years being a reservist to be able to getting that. So,
well, I'm glad you heard about that early because, like I said, you do enough tours, you talk to enough people, and you find out that they are receiving disability when they're not on orders. You go, well, how was that, or why was that? And then they tell you their struggles. And I wouldn't want to wish anybody ill health just to get it, but just know that those programs are there and ready for you to be set up and, take care of you.
Yeah, definitely agree. So let's get back into where you're at. So got out in 16, looking at the contract role. What made you pivot to serve the current community? Because you could have went anywhere. You already now have a retirement. You could have moved anywhere in the world. You moved to Utah from Germany, if I'm correct. I'm like, wow, I would have stayed in Germany. So what made you pivot to serve your current community?
Yeah, well, we still had some kids at the house, but now that they're all gone, Daniel, I found it on my last tour to Bahrain. I was talking to some of the Army active duty guys, and one of the guys said, I've got like 17 years in. I'm going to be retiring right at 20 years and 0 days. And we were starting to talk about disability and a few other things. And I said, it's kind of sad that everybody strives to get their 100% disability, by one form or another. I'm not saying it's sad, but I've always been an entrepreneur, and I don't want anybody to limit me, and I don't want to be just pigeonholed with a certain amount of money and say, okay, here's your stipend, and go live the best life you can with $2,000 a month or whatever. And so with my entrepreneurial spirit and a couple programs that I came across, I said, what if you could create your equivalent or better of disability? And that's really what got me started in this current community, was not limiting yourself to what the government was offering.
Yeah. And just to give a little user education for people that are getting out, the only time you're limited from collecting VA and money is when, and I just discovered this recently with a current vet that's in one of my up and coming businesses, is that when you're 100% and you're unemployable, there's 100% P&T, which means permanent and total, and then there's 100% unemployable. That's when you're limited in that regard. So it's not like Social Security, because Social Security will go over and limit you basically almost dollar for dollar after a certain threshold and whatnot. That's even in retirement. But definitely, if you're a veteran that's saying, I want to go over and do something, unless they've told you you're 100% unemployable and they're giving you 100%, which is a little more than the 100% P&T, that's when you to be concerned. But definitely want to get those veterans out there, because I met one guy, he's like, I've been volunteering for 6 years because I'm 100% P&T. I think I'm going to get my benefits taken away. You could have did entrepreneurial stuff for the past 6 years. So now he's starting to get the bite. So
good. Yeah, that's great advice.
So from there, you now taking this entrepreneurial bug, and sometimes it bites us for a few months or a few years. I bet you there's a lot of pressure and tough times when that comes, or even maybe sometimes when you were in the military. What is your secret fuel when that pressure and tough times come?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always had multiple oars or multiple irons in the fire, if you would, because as a Guard and Reserve guy, you never knew when the orders would end, and you had to have 2 or 3 things lined up. So, just always looking for the different angles, opportunities, which led me to the networking of, my Rolodex goes back 30 or 40 years. I think I could call somebody up, say, hey, do you remember when we did this together or whatever else? Or even from my original childhood neighbor, the neighbors, I called them up and gave them opportunity to look at this new program I'm in. And 10 or 15 joined me because it just made sense.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I wish I would have thought of that more. Even the time when I got out of active duty and then I was kind of doing entrepreneur and then I got back into employment, I kind of allowed the employment to erode me. I made that as my focus. It's only been the recent past 5 years I've tried to go from employment to trying to go to fully entrepreneur. So that is, I think, a good secret fuel is to always have a couple irons in the fire. So,
well, and Daniel, too, the one thing that drives me, matter of fact, I just had dinner with a friend from high school. He's autistic, high functioning. You tell him your birthday and he'll never forget it. He's always going to tell you, and he even called you up on your half birthday and said, hey, it's your half birthday, happy birthday. But working with the people who may not ever have the type of pension that I currently have allows me to have that the capabilities to focus on other people. And I told him, I said, hey, Bob, this keeps me up at night, is how can I get you to where I am so that you can quit one of your jobs, not work 70, 75 hours a week, and you can enjoy life, And he said, hey, if I don't have something change quick, I'd just rather not be here. He's my same age. And he just said, I'm just done working for the man. So, I told him about this current program that I'm in, and I'm happy to just be working for him because I know every time he benefits, I benefit as well, just the way the program works.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing in that. And we'll get into that program in a moment, but we have like one last question before we get into that. And everybody can start looking that up through the banner on the bottom while going on and waiting. So if you had to go either mentor yourself 20, 30 years ago, or if one of your clients that you deal with now, what 3 superhero tactics would you give them to go from that surviving moment? Because a lot of people, it sounds like, are in that survival moment to get to that thriving time, not just for a little bit, but for longevity.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I put in for pilot training 4 different times. There were people who were not truthful with me when they would tell me what I needed to do next because it didn't apply to the next selection round. Totally frustrating. But you have to learn that it's not always personal. Things are what you make of them, and being able to be resilient, have that tenacity to work through any of the challenges. I had one of my dear commanders that really wanted to see me get into the cockpit with the crews. He just said, Arlen, he said, the 4 times you've been passed over and you keep coming back after you, that's what's going to make you successful in life. So don't worry about that. Just focus on, the good work that you do. Be honest, you have your integrity, and then just always serve. The service before self has always been something I've found joy in the service. So, why wouldn't I continue to do that even to today? So the tenacity, resilience, and just find joy in the simple things and random acts of kindness.
All right. I think I extrapolated what you did and what branch. If you're in the audience watching this episode and you're still questioning, I'm going to give you like 2 more seconds, but I think I know the branch based on the language. I think it was the United States Air Force. Am I correct?
That is correct.
You did very well. This is the first time I've ever done this test, and you kept it military, but you kept it vague enough that you really had to know the language. I mean, I knew it early on, but once you said the core values, I was like, nope, he hosed himself.
Yeah. That's I kind of figured that, I referenced several other things I should probably throw in the service before self.
Yeah, that was real good. That you did really, really well. I was like, you really coded it well. And this was the first time I tested out. So if in the audience you got it before, you are amazing. If not, you'll have to watch another episode and figure out the next veteran in that particular guard.
You go.
I think I'm going to do that as my new guessing thing to say if I guess your service. All right. So I want to thank you for going over and joining me. But before we go over and go, you can go over and shout out more about your brand because we haven't heard much about it and how you're helping people in the entrepreneurial world. And then if you can close us out with either a good quote or a good saying, and then we'll go to credits.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for that opportunity because I think Live Good is one of those things that is like for the underdog of the network marketing world. For years, people would jump in, pay their money, dream about what it'd be like to have thousands of people working for them. And, you get a little bit of commission off of everything. Well, those high price days and sharing the commissions are gone. Live Good is a subscription-based model, and we don't make money on the products. There's no quotas. You make money off of the membership, the monthly membership. Just a one-time $40 affiliate fee gets you set up with all your shareable URLs, websites, landing pages, and the ability to join a team of 1.3 million people that have joined in the last 18 months since Live Good opened their doors. So really, we're just at the beginning. But the health and wellness products, our motto is to get healthy and stay healthy without charging you a ton of money. The people are phenomenal. And it gives me the ability to work with my autistic friend, Bob, and find out a way that I can help build. Every time I put somebody into the matrix, Bob benefits too. It's just the way the pay plan works. Never seen anything as fair as it is. But, if we become the next Amazon Prime and everybody that's put members in is making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month residual income, that will be the time when I know my extra work that I've done post-military has really paid off.